अच्छा ये
Good morning, everybody. Today is our second day for the national seminar Parenting, Schooling and Cognition. This is organized by four institutions collaboratively: Brajraj Nagar, Jharsuguda, Government ETI Baripada, Diet Mayurbhanj, and Department of Education Alia University, West Bengal. So we are making an attempt to find out, to explore more about schooling, parenting, schooling, and cognition. So in our this attempt today, we have guests, uh, we have eminent personalities. We have in our panel Professor UN Das, retired professor of psychology of Utkal University. We also have Professor S.C. Panigrahi, professor of case Baroda. We have Professor G.C. Nanda sir, retired professor of Ravensa University, and Professor Arvind K. Jha sir, Dean uh, BBAU Lucknow, and Professor R.K. Mahalik, professor of RI Bhubaneswar. So now I would like to request Debasmita Chakra ma'am to introduce our guest. Please ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Though the panelists of today's webinar are self-enlightened and enlightening the academia of this country and state respectively, but as per the protocol, I have to introduce them. So just a minute. Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes,
yes
yes.
yes
Okay. So today we are having Professor Udayanath Das, former professor in psychology, University of Delhi and Utkal University, PhD from University of Alberta, Canada. He has 4 decades of teaching experience and expert in the field of educational psychology and early schooling. Extensively published both nationally and internationally, and significant research work on effects of schooling. And he is the author of celebrated work Schooling and Cognition. We are honored having you in this forum. Welcome, sir. Next, I welcome Professor S.C. Panigrahi. He is a professor of education and head Department of Education, Center of Advanced Study in Education, Faculty of Education and Psychology. He had more than 23 years of teaching and research experience. He has worked extensively in the area of qualitative research, sociology of education, constructivism, tribal education, special education, and teacher education. We are very fortunate having you in this forum. Welcome, sir. Again, I welcome Professor G.C. Nanda, Professor, Department of Teacher Education, Utkal University, Senior Fellow, ICSSR, former Professor of Education, Ravensa University, former Chairperson, Council of Dean, Ravensa University, former Director of OPEPA, Odisha, renowned educational thinker of Odisha, best teacher of philosophy, produced more than 20 as well as on teacher education. He has lots of publication and number of PhD students. Again, I welcome Professor R.K. Mahalik, who started his career as lecturer in education on 15th April 2004 at Regional Institute of Education, Mysore, joined the RI Bhubaneswar on 7th July 2006 as reader in education at Vinay Bhavan, Vishwa Bharati Santiniketan, West Bengal, and presently working as associate professor in education at RI Bhubaneswar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, madam, for introducing our guest. Next, I would like to request Dr. Sudarshan Santra sir, Principal ETI Baripada, to welcome our guest. Please, sir.
Sir, namaskar. Good morning to everybody. It is my great pleasure to welcome our respected dignitaries, both national and international. international level intellectuals. Uh, Sir, at the outset, uh, I extend my heartfelt regards on behalf of the organizing committee, organizing institutions, to our eminent personalities, especially our Professor Yuvan Das sir and GC Nando sir and Arvind Kejha sir and others dignitaries. Sir, first of all, I welcome you uh, because everybody knows Professor Yuvan Das sir is very competent and committed, and his presence really enlightened, and we are very much grateful and delighted to listen him, sir. Sir, your every bit of words is really vibrating and inspiring, and you are not only a teacher, counselor, and a guide, philosopher. Rather, you provide, you enlighten everybody's of persons who are related to education in their personal and professional career. Sir, I am very much grateful, and I feel proud to introduce and welcome you to introduce you. And I hope definitely your inspiring words will definitely enlighten our Google Meet participants, our YouTube viewers, and other respected persons. Welcome again, sir. Thank you, sir. Next, I welcome uh, uh, Professor GC Nando, retired uh, retired professor in Ravenshaw University. I know him personally, and Professor G.C. Nando is really a versatile personality. He is experienced, he has a lot of experience from the field of primary education to university education. Really, he is a very loving person. His contribution definitely is really praiseworthy in all field of education. Sir, I welcome you, and we hope your speech, definitely your deliberation, definitely enlighten our participants. I also welcome Professor S. C. Panigrahi, uh, CAC, MSc. Uh, sir, your kind consent has delighted us. So I am also welcome you. I am also welcoming Professor Arvind Kejha, Dean of Baba Saheb Ambedkar University, uh, Lucknow. Sir, we are very much grateful for your presence. I also welcome Professor R.K. Mohalik, Professor R.I. Bhubaneswar, whose kind consent for the deliberation on this second, on the national level seminar. I am also very much delighted and extend my gratefulness for his kind presence. Last but not the least, I also welcome Miss Lepika Sahu, Principal Government ETI Bhubaneswar. He is also part and parcel of this organizing committee. She is a guide and a friend of all the teacher education institutions. He is also inspired a lot. So I welcome everybody's. I welcome all the participants, all the viewers, all the organizing members, and all the viewers to this occasion, to this national level seminar. So again, I am extending my regards and thanks and welcome all the delighted personalities. So I expect. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Uh, the time has come for the inaugural address. So let us join to Professor UN Das sir, retired professor of psychology, Utkal University. He has done enormous work in the significant work he has done in the field of effect of schooling. So let us all listen to him, please, sir.
Can you see my PowerPoint slide? Hello.
No, sir. Sir, you start presenting now because it's not visible. Have
It's
you?
not visible.
No. Have you started presenting now?
Yeah, I have.
Uh, so when you click on the present now, then one window will open. You just click on that window, then you start share.
Now is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Samant Roy, Mona Lisa Madam, and also Mr. Priyaranjan Das, who initially contacted me to share my work on cognitive consequences of schooling and literacy in the first session of the second day of the joint webinar organized by 4 institutions. Without wasting too much of time, and let me go directly to what I have to say about cognitive consequences of schooling and literacy. I worked on inalienable components of human development and modern culture and civilization. So the question is, does the course of human development proceed similarly in school and non-school populations, or are they different? Suppose they are different. So does it mean that we have to develop a theory of human development for school children and another theory of development who have not gone through the process of schooling? Usually researchers in the Western world, they have turned their attention to the third world countries, to the developing countries, to the underdeveloped countries, because that is where they find that many of the children do not go to schools. Therefore, they would like to validate their developmental theories by also selecting, researching upon the non-school population. Answers to this question are theoretical as well as practical significance. Education aims for the optimal development of innate and human powers. True. But it is also, education itself is also an influence on the nature and course of human development. So, is the course of human development universal in nature, or what we are studying as the course of human development is a confounding effect of chronological age and schooling? Very basic thing is, researchers say, without formal training at home until about 6 years of age. Nowadays, of course, early childhood education is there, and children are going to early childhood education centers at the age of 3, at the age of 4. But even until the age of 4, there is no formal training. Training is only imparted by the mother in an informal way, in a home setting, in a non-formal setting. But the child acquires the basic competence of learning to listen to the language and understand the language and speak the native language at a very basic level, so that he or she can communicate her intentions and can also understand the intentions of others. But with the formal instruction for decades means master's degree means 17 years, the child finds it difficult to read and write fluently and meaningfully. So even after 17 years of education, and PhD means another 3 or 4 years, 20, 21 years of education, reading and writing fluently and with meaning becomes a very extremely difficult task. That suggests that reading and writing bring certain fundamental changes to human cognition, and they bring certain unique kinds of logical competencies which need to be studied. What are the issues? Issues are, does schooling produce cognitive changes? And if it does, are these changes widespread? Does schooling have widespread intellectual consequences? Is it all pervasive? It is universal. It is widespread, and it covers many domains of human intellectual functioning, or The effect of schooling is localized and specific to certain narrow range of tasks, narrower and localized effects. That is the practice perspective. Whatever it does, if schooling brings about changes, does it effect changes in all kinds of tasks in an equal fashion, or is its effects limited to certain kinds of tasks, to certain kinds at very basic elementary level of schooling? Are the noted effects, whatever effects are there, are the noted effects universal across cultures and contexts? So would a school child same way the environment and all the manifestations around him or her in United States or in England or in tribal villages in Africa or in tribal villages in Orissa or even rural areas of Orissa, are the noted effects universal across cultures and contexts? If it does, how do the changes come about? It is not just enough to show that there are changes, but one will have to specify the mechanisms of such changes. How does schooling bring about changes as it does? Do the changes generalize to important non-school settings? If there is a difference between school and non-school children, does the effect generalize to important non-school settings, or are the effects confined only to the school context? What are the mechanisms? The major mechanisms, that was from my second slide. Schooling teaches alphabetic script and written language. The alphabetic script and written language, because in language we have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening, speaking is on one side, and reading and writing are on the other side. When you are writing a book, where somebody will read the book even when the author is not present there to explain his or her viewpoint, the language will contain all the intentions of the author. Therefore, reading a book and understanding the language presented in the book requires decontextualized thinking. And written language means written language is the highest form of expression in the language category, and beyond that would come thinking. In the written language, once you write, then you can look at your writing and correct your writing. That means you can look at yourself, you can introspect on your thinking, you can think about your thought and make necessary corrections. And that is what there is with the written language. Not with the listening, not with speaking, not with the reading. So linguistic competence and symbolic functions and manipulations. Linguistic competence brings symbolic functions, and the person can discriminate between what is said and what is meant. Structure of written language is such that children process information outside their experiences and develop their ability to generalize and abstract. Greenfield was working with Brunner. So Greenfield, when she conducted Piagetian tasks on African children, African adults, 22-year-old adults, on conservation of length, conservation of mass, transitivity, class inclusion, and the two beakers are there, and then the water is poured from one beaker to the other, are the amount of water equal in both the beakers. So not only that 22 adults got it wrong, but when they were asked question, if they say that A and C, the two beakers, C contains more water than A, then they are asked, why do you think so? They could not understand that language, understand why do you think so? I think like this. Why do I think so? This is a question which is very alien to them, because they cannot think about that thought. So one effect of literacy and written language is that we can think about our thinking. Printed alphabetic script, new modes of thought. Written language, decontextualized experience. Decontextualized written language. Suppose I say in transitivity, I say a pen is heavier than a matchstick. A matchstick is heavier than pin. Which between the pen and the pin is heavier? It is a contextual thinking. Pen is heavier. Suppose I change it, and I say that between the pen and a matchstick is heavier than pen, and between a matchstick and a pin is heavier than matchstick. Which among the two, the pen and the pin, which one is lighter? Actually, the child until about 8 or 9 years of age will say that the pin is lighter. But the decontextualized thinking suggests that pain is lighter than the pain because that is the information that is given. So one will be able to answer it when one is freed from concrete situations and actions, focusing on universal values. Mechanism regards an event as an instance of general class of events and searches for general rules. In the schools, the entire process of teaching proceeds in a deductive manner. A triangle is defined. Many examples, 3, 4, 5 examples of triangle are given, and then a triangle is defined. And then, on the basis of the definition, we have to judge whether a particular figure is a triangle or not. Therefore, the process of reasoning in schools has a deductive force, whereas the process of reasoning in non-school settings has an inductive force, because the child watches parents doing a particular act once, twice, 10 times, 20 times, and then through the process of induction, he learns to engage in that particular act. It is not a deductive inference. Deductive inference is particularly related to schooling. Strengthens inductive reasoning and teaches it's, of course, schooling strengthens inductive reasoning, but it teaches primarily deductive reasoning, promotes analytical thinking, reduces magical thinking. In conservation of length, conservation of mass tasks, Greenfield, Piaget, they asked, not Piaget, but Greenfield, Bobbe, they asked tribal students, tribal children, tribal adults, that when liquid is poured from a taller and narrower beaker to a wider beaker, well, obviously the height of the liquid will go down. Then they are asked to compare and then say, no, this contains more. Then they are asked, why do you think that it contains more? They say, because you operated on it. Whenever we believe that an event is happening because somebody else is able to manipulate the situation in such a manner which is beyond our comprehension, therefore the effect is generated. That is what is called magical thinking. So here in the third world countries and in less developed countries or underdeveloped countries, teachers present their materials in such a way that children feel that since teacher is saying this, therefore it is correct. So this is a sign of magical thinking. This is not a sign of scientific thinking. Appreciates processes and develops the ability to code and decode information. Schooling effects are maximally noticed, in which occasions schooling effects are strong education-related effects for less structured and hypothetical tasks requiring taxonomy principles. This one is, strong education-related effects for less structured means compared to others, it is relatively more structured and more hypothetical. Education-related effects emerge. But when the nature of the task is more structured and less hypothetical, education-related effects vanish. Why? Now, schooling promotes remembering information as a goal in itself without even comprehending why the information is remembered, and developing the ability to deal with abstract concepts and symbols and hypothetical situations. Develops learning and thinking strategies and promotes deductive reasoning and decontextualized thinking. In Odisha context, there are 3, 4 major important studies, 10 of those. But the 4 we had some study on 14 rural schools and adjoining villages in Angul, where there are school and non-school children. There are also early children in the early childhood education centers. We had also research. Dr. M. Mahanti, he conducted this research. We both did that. 22 tribal villages and adjoining villages in the district of Koraput. And a study was also conducted in Kandhamal on 360 grades 2, 4, and 6 unilingual and bilingual children for assessing metalinguistic skills. That means if one knows more of language, what kind of additional effect does it bring? Because if the mechanism of schooling is that schooling promotes symbolic thinking and symbolic manipulations and dealing with hypothetical situations, generating strategies, constructing experiences, and that too more in the mode of written language. And if language is a major parameter that brings about many of the changes in schooling as we experience, then if people have additional language facility, what more changes would it bring? So that is why a research was done on bilingual children. But schooling research is fraught with many co-varying factors. Demographic factors are there. School and non-school children are not equal. Economic, in terms of their age, in terms of their parents' income, parents' social class, even gender, boys and girls reaching the school, task variables, familiarity with the task, language of testing and test situation. This is what I would like to explain. Task variable. School children are more familiar with tasks. So if you give the same kind of task to non-school children, the task characteristics change even if the task remains the same. Therefore, a researcher known as Barbara Rogoff, she said that whenever somebody is working on a particular kind of test, there are three important things. One, the test must measure the skill. Second, whosoever is taking the test, that means the participant or the testee, must have the skill. Unless he has the skill and I would use a test to measure the skill, obviously I will come up with a poor performance and I will attribute it to achieve the person had the poor performance. When in fact the test doesn't measure that skill and the child doesn't have that skill. And then language of testing, and that is very and test situation, that is very important. It is not just enough that the test must measure the skill and the person must have the skill. What is more important is test must create a context and a situation where the testee, the person whom the test is administered, will perceive it as a situation where whatever skill he has, he can bring it into play. Even if it is, I can understand the question. I also know the answer, but I do not know that this is the answer to the question. So that is the third factor. Then personal variables, motivation to learn. People attend school because they are more motivated to learn. At the level of their motivation, they have differences. So any effect of schooling is confounded with these kinds of variables. And even some researchers said differences did exist even before they joined school. What to speak of after joining the school, differences emerge. Even before that. And therefore, school non-school difference is not just enough. It is important to understand how the changes come about. Therefore, it is better to use information processing model in order to conceptualize the difference between school and non-school population rather than simple only specific tasks, specific variables. So in our research, these are the questions. Course of cognitive development, does it proceed similarly? Does schooling influence performance on all tasks in an equal fashion? So using an information processing model by J.P. Das, simultaneous successive processing and planning and attention also, how efficiently school children integrate information and how coding processes are related to concrete operational memory and reasoning tasks. And does elementary literacy training? And if language is a major parameter, those who are literates, adult literates, because there are adult literacy training programs. So those who are adult literates and those who are non-literates. Since adult literates in 1 year, they have certain degree of facility with the written language, certain degree at a very primary level. So would the difference also show up between the literates and the illiterates? We are the sample. I would not like to take more time and describe the sample. But there are preschool children, non-school children, school children, class 2, class 5, literates and illiterates. And both of them were from the homogeneous social background in terms of their demographic characteristic, educational level, income and occupation. There is no difference. Usually all across the world, in many of the cross-cultural researchers on schooling and cognition, they have used these kinds of standardized intelligence tests, SCPM, Whistler, or any kind of variation of these intelligence tests. And then tasks derived from laboratory studies of memory, problem solving and concept attainment. So there may be serial recall, there may be clustering empirical, there may be syllogistic reasoning. So derived mostly from laboratory studies and then Piagetian tasks. We have used three kinds of tasks, information coding and planning, Piagetian, laboratory based tasks. So we used figure copying and memory for designs for simultaneous coding. Figure copying means there are simple figures, 15 figures. All that is done, the person is shown the figure. Okay, after the figure is shown, he will just have to copy it. Memory for designs means, figure copying means figure is right present there in his in his view. So you just have to copy it. That's all. Figures are very simple. And memory for design means the figure is shown for 5 seconds. Then figure is taken away. And then you draw the design. Successive, serial recall. Serial recall means you say cow, bird, ox, then go on gradually increasing. Digit span as we find in Wechsler's intelligence scale for children. Digit span. Our normal range is 7 plus minus 2. Normally, a 4 to 5-year-old child would have a span of immediate memory span of 5. Piaget task there was conservation of length, two rods of equal length placed in different position, and he asked whether they are the same or not. Two rods are placed at a little distance. He will judge, yes, two rods are equal. Then one rod is pushed from the left to the right. Then he asked, are the two rods equal now? Conservation of length emerges at about the age of 6. Before that, he would say one rod is longer than the other. He says he is longer on this side and shorter on that side. Conservation of mass, that A, B, C liquid transference from one beaker to another. Transitive inference. 3 rods are given. One rod A, B, C suppose. A and B are shown. He is asked which one is longer. Now A is longer than B. Then B and C, actually A is longer than B. B is longer than C. A, B shown. Then he says A is longer than B. Then B, C shown. He says B is longer than C. Then A, C shown. Then he says which between these two is shorter. So that is a pictorial mode. Usually they will be able to say. But when it comes to the verbal mode, that means A is greater than B, B is greater than C, which is lesser between A and C. There they find difficulty even until grade 5. Class intrusion, it is very difficult. It emerges at about maybe 9 years of age, 10 years of age, sometimes even 11 years of age. Class intrusion, there are pictures of flowers. Say there are jasmine flowers, maybe suppose 7, and marigold maybe 4. Then he is shown. How many flowers are there? 11. And then he asked, are there more jasmine flowers or more flowers? Until about 9 years, there are more jasmine flowers. So he cannot regard a subset. He cannot regard jasmines as a subset of the general class of flowers. Laboratory based clustering in free recall. So we show them 10, 12, 15, 16, 20, depending upon their age cards. They are from different categories. So maybe there may be 4 pictures of vehicles, 4 pictures of animals, 4 pictures of birds, and 4 pictures of flowers. They are shuffled and shown. And then he is asked to recall. What did you see? Is there any clustering? Is he trying to recall them category wise? So usually with the greater amount of schooling, they would cluster it. First they would say animals, then they would say vehicles. So that will be clusters. And that is the method of scoring whether there is serial short-term recall of locations. 7 cards we used, and then cards are shown, each one is for only 3 seconds. Then they are put upside down, and he sees all the 7 cards, and then one card is tapped, and he says, and we ask, what is this card? So it may be at the beginning, it may be at the middle, it may be at the end. So at the beginning means it is primacy. At the end means it is recency. Maximum intrusion will take place in between, in the middle. And syllogisms are, that is what Luria did research on, where he said, he asked some of the farmers in Central Asia and asked them, wherever it snows and the color of the bears is white, it snows in Vladivostok, what colors the bears would be there? Those who did not have any schooling experience and they were Russian farmers, they said, we cannot say. He said, yeah, you think about it again. This is what it is. Wherever it snows, the color of the bears is white, and it snows in Vladivostok, what color the bears would be there? Then they said, we have not gone to Vladivostok, therefore we cannot say. So syllogism, there are 14 syllogisms, different categories, artificial, contrary to. Those having legs can fly. If elephants would have legs, would they be able to fly? unfamiliar, another hypothetical, not hypothetical, familiar situation. So in order to be able to carry rice from my field to the next mandi, I need a cart and two horses. I have the cart, but not two horses. Would I be able to carry the rice? That if statement they are not able to respect. So some of them solve a syllogistic reasoning problem by going by taking request to the real world normative knowledge. They did not regard the syllogistic reasoning item as a self-contained logical premise from which conclusions can be meaningfully drawn. So instead, they said, "Well, I will hire horses from somebody else." So they tried to solve it as a problem. They didn't respect the logical. So what we noticed? Significant age effects. Maybe another 5 minutes I will finish. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Doctor? Another 5 minutes?
Okay, sir.
Okay. No, no. Can I speak for 10 minutes or should I have to speak in 5 minutes?
You can continue for 10 minutes if you want, sir.
Okay.
10 minutes, sir, continue.
Okay. Significant age effects were noted. Piagetian tasks. So for all Piagetian tasks, as is natural, developmental trend was found. So that means the tasks are developmentally sensitive. When the tasks are shown to be developmental sensitive, it means the task is measuring the cognitive trait because cognitive trait increases as a function of age. A moderate schooling effect for transitivity verbal. And for grade 5 children, a moderate effect of schooling was found out when the transitivity problems were presented in a verbal mode. And the order of emergence of these Piagetian tasks for the schooled as well as for the non-schooled population was conservation of mass, transitivity, conservation of length, and class inclusion. Simultaneous coding, successive coding, and planning. Planning is defined as the essence of intelligence. Ability to plan, ability to evaluate one's plan, ability to implement the plan and learn from if the plans failed. That is what is planning. Simultaneous processing is quasi-spatial in nature. That means it is quasi-spatial, though there are non-verbal and verbal simultaneous processing tasks. But simultaneous processing means taking all the elements of the particular event or situation they count simultaneously. For a successive processing, going step by step. Example, in dichotic listening task, what is done? There are two earphones. On one side, what is told is 1 or any number 1, 2, 3, 1. Then other side A. Then left side 2, other side B. Left side 3, other side C. Then he is asked, "What did you hear?" Simultaneous processor will say 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5. 1, 2, 3 ABC. A successive processor will say 1A, 2B, 3C. So that is what I have experimented upon, and I found usually those who are deaf children, what is their manner of processing as compared to normal children. Young children will process it successively. Relatively older children will process it simultaneously. However, that doesn't mean that simultaneous processing is better than successive processing. Because successive processing initially is important for learning alphabets and it's important for learning words and joining words to form meaningful sentences. Planning as a factor emerged only in the older age group. That means 10 to 12 years old. Clustering in free recall, no schooling effect. Absolutely. But whenever we provided them cues, that means at one point after 3 trials we told them that you will now see 4 different kinds of photographs, pictures. Then we asked them to recall. Slight effect of schooling was noticed. So when it is partially structured for them, certain effect of schooling emerges. Serial short-term recall of locations. Structural features of memory. Structural features of memory is in recency recall. Recalls the last ones. That is structural feature of memory. If you recall the earlier ones, that is recency recall. That is a functional recall. that is related to the control process of memory, because the earlier items have to be maintained through either maintenance or elaborative rehearsal. So if he is able to recall the first ones, that he is engaged in elaborative or maintenance rehearsal. Particularly when the items are separate, you engage in maintenance rehearsal, not elaborative rehearsal. So what we found? Not much of effect of 2 to 5 years of schooling doesn't reliably promote the use of active cognitive strategies. It was also noted in Wagner's study in Morocco and African Peru. Logical reasoning registered a significant developmental trend, but no schooling effect, no interaction of schooling with age. On the other hand, school learning sometimes interfered with the correct solution of the syllogisms. That means if we say that those having wings can fly, if elephants would have wings, would they be able to fly? Then they would bring their school related knowledge. And they would say the bone of the birds are very light, therefore the birds can fly, but elephants are very stronger and heavy, and they have very strong bones, they cannot fly. Because they are taught about the bones of birds, and sometimes it interferes with their serial short-term recall of locations. Then it was done. Simultaneous processing is predominantly used. Syllogistic reasoning is greatly facilitated by simultaneous processing. And literacy studies also partially confirm our findings from 10 months literacy training, almost similar effect. I think simultaneous processing and successive processing improves in grade 10, in grade 5. And here there is the explanation why it improved and why others didn't improve. And second point, rote learning was the primary method, and nowadays it is all over India. No scope for auto-regulation of experiences. No auto-regulation means these strategic skills will not develop. No construction of knowledge from empirical observation, hence no difference in Piagetian concrete operational tasks. Researchers argue that it is not schooling per se, but it is the quality of schooling which has been very much emphasized in National Education Policy 2020, but we do not know how far these things will be implemented, because most people believe that in the National Education Policy, the kind of plans that have been done, they appear as if they have been imported from, say, probably from out of world experiences, and have not been based on the practical reality considerations. This is another study which was done in Koraput. So we got similar kinds of effects. I will not explain it because I do not have time. In summary, schooling in rural areas until about grade 5, 7, 8, 10, we have not studied, produce task-specific localized effects. The effects are localized only to performance certain specific tasks. Doesn't generate cognitions having generalized intellectual consequences. So fundamental processes of cognition are not changed. In primarily because it emphasizes rote memory, less understanding, less application of strategies, less construction and reconstruction of experiences. Except in the memory domain slightly improves. It has little effect in bringing fundamental changes in child's cognitions. Hence, quality learning process and learning outcomes as envisaged in NEP should be our goal. Whether we will be able to reach it or we will not be able to reach it is different. Though many of the findings and the speculations, the conclusions, they appear to be as if we also know it, but always that need to be theoretical backup from evidence-based studies. And the studies, I have cited only the major findings of one study, not the other 2 studies. But all the 3 studies taken together, they suggest certain evidence-based knowledge with respect to what schooling in the rural areas, in the Indian context, and particularly in the Odishan context, in tribal villages as well as in rural locations, what kind of changes do they bring in the mind of the child. As far as we are concerned, there is not so much fundamental changes in the child's cognitions because in terms of learning outcomes, learning processes, and the quality probably is lacking too much. So thank you very much. I thank all the four institutions for having given me an opportunity to speak to you and speak to all the participants who have been sitting there very quietly and patiently, who have listened to me for about 45 minutes. So that is why I always say that Winston Churchill once said that it takes a great amount of courage to stand up and speak. It also takes a great amount of courage to sit down and listen. And by extending their ability to listen to me, I thank all the participants, all the organizations, all the heads of the institutions who have collaborated in the process, and I really extend my deep sense of gratitude to all the people who have heard me for last 45 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We are grateful to you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing insights about mechanisms by which schooling brings about changes. Without your talk, access to such an extensive information would not have been possible. Thank you so much, sir. Next,
Thank
we have Professor S.C. Panigrahi, sir, Professor of Education and Head, Department of Education, Center of Advanced Study in Education, Faculty of Education and Psychology in the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda, Vadodara. He has done immense work in qualitative research, sociology of education, constructivism, tribal education, special education, and teacher education. We are very honored to have you, sir, for the keynote address. Please, sir. Panigrahi, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, it's audible.
Yeah, actually. Okay, fine. Shall I start?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. At the outset, I thank the organizer for inviting me to speak on a topic which is uh, very much dear to me, and it is very important one, especially in the present times. I have structured the lecture in three parts because there are three concepts involved in it. One, schooling. Two, cognition. Three, parenting. I try to actually articulate how these three concepts can be interlinked in a manner that will help us to conceptualize about child development and child growth in a better manner. I'm talking of not the physical growth, but the growth in academics. So I actually surveyed the literature, and some of the
research evidences actually I have brought in, and I like to present before you for your consideration. The first part of the talk is related to the brain development and parental influence on children's cognitive development. See, as far as the brain development of the student is concerned, or the child here, the first 5 years of life of every individual child is very, very significant and very, very important. It is said that the size of the brain of a young infant is 1/4 the size of that an adult. So, as the child grows, the brain also grows. And therefore, keeping in mind that growth, we must actually work for its proper growth. Now, in the first year of the child, 50% of the brain develops. By third year, 80% of the brain develops. And by fifth year, 90% of the brain develops. Now, in this whole process, two things are very significant. One is heredity, and second is environment. Research evidence or empirical evidence show that about 30 to 60% development depends on heredity, and 40 to 70% it is development depends on the interaction with the environment. That means a wide variety of experience, sensory experience, empirical experience must be provided or must be made available, because that determines the structure of the brain. So more the experience, better is the structure of the brain. Now, in the recent years, researchers have shown that parental influence on children's cognitive development has gained a prominent place in public discourse. See, there is a growing concern about the disadvantaged children and the perception of young children as a powerful tool. Means every young child has potential to grow in different areas. You know, it has run actually parallel to some significant researches wherein it has been found that the early years of the child has a lot of impact in shaping the human potential, and the effect of home environment significantly contributes to the intellectual development of the child. So, a lot of emphasis is being placed on the home environment and the experiences the child is going to gain or gains. For cognitive development, therefore, early experiences of the child is very crucial, and therefore this places a great deal of responsibility on the part of the parents. The level of intellectual development of the children is related to the quality and quantity of stimuli that they get in the early years, which shapes their brain. So, two things have been highlighted here. Number one, the quality of experience that is being provided, and second, the quantity. Both these shape the brain of the or the helps in the cognitive development of the child. Thus, the main consequence of this or these research endeavors points to a fact that parents are expected to perform a new role. Accordingly, it has been envisaged that parents can act as teachers or pedagogues. In other words, parenting for cognitive development. In this sense, much of the onus is dependent upon parenting, in which will subsequently help in the development of the or cognitive development of the child. Now, if this is the situation, what schools are going to do? Now, in the recent years, as far as the functioning of the school is concerned, lot many changes have been observed. And that is because the dismantling of a large undivided joint family where a child was socialized have been reduced to a single nuclear family, and more recently in much of the urban area, single parent family. So the socialization that was taking place in the family is not happening now. And therefore, it is now the responsibility of the school to provide all those experiences that are required not only for the cognitive development of the child, but also to perform the role in the society when the child comes out. And that is why you will find in the recent years, emphasis on preschooling has been given much. In fact, in the recent Education Policy 2020, preschool education is a significant aspect, significant part in the whole process of schooling. And that is because of the, the change in the structure of the family. So, schools now have greater responsibility in providing all those stimulus, all those experiences that will help in the cognitive development of the child and other social characteristics that are required for the child to function as an independent member in the society, in the family, and wherever the child goes. Now, one of the researches that I actually found in, of course, it is not an Indian study, but it was conducted in Germany. And the title of the study is "Do Better School Lead to More Economic Growth?" And you will be surprised to see to know the findings. Let me read it. Significant growth effects of cognitive skills with their schooling system. Improved cognitive skills over time experienced relative increase in their growth part. And the final and the most thought-provoking finding is the shares of basic literacies and high performers have independent significant effect on growth, and the estimate suggests that high performer is larger in poorer countries. Now, this is actually a point of probing. Now, how exactly, in poorer countries, high performance is being, seen. Now, this was actually a mathematical modeling was applied to actually come out with this kind of actually empirical finding. In few minutes from now, I will present you some of the facts which actually proves this particular point. How in poorer countries high performer people are observed. One simple layman logic that can be given is that in poorer countries they have no choice but to perform, and therefore that inner zeal to excel, to succeed, to overcome all difficulties, it boosts their performance, which in other cases, maybe where people are affluent, they don't have problem of resources, they don't have problem of the environment where they study, and so on and so forth. In other words, in general, they are having all sorts of facility or all variety of facility. They such students or such people tend to be little complacent. This is, I'm giving a layman's logic of trying to justify how such a kind of finding has come, because it is not in one uh, place. It has been actually carried out in a large area, and the sample from different countries have been taken. So this logic, what I just presented before you, in my opinion, seems quite appropriate to accept that in poorer countries you come across people with high performance. Sometime later, I will, when I discuss about the other aspect, parenting aspect, and I'll present some empirical evidence to, in fact, support this particular argument. So, considering the fact that school owes a great deal of responsibility in inculcating all those required qualities in the individual, the cognitive development of the individual, they need to organize their education system in such a manner that the cognitive development of the child or the people takes place at the optimum level, and the social qualities that are required to function oneself in the society. In fact, UNESCO has come out with a different idea, of course not new. It talks about transversal skills and competencies. Now, these transversal skills and competencies are the requirement of 21st century. Now, these transversal skills are not subject specific or content specific. They are skills that can be acquired, and those skills can be exhibited in different places. In fact, there are it has 6 domains, and in each domains, further skills are there. You can actually put it in UNESCO website, transversal skills and competencies. You will get complete details about it. Now, that is to say that the moment a child enters into the school is expected to provide all those competencies that are required. Now, this is the actually need. Some people give it a name as 21st century skills. Some people give it a name as life skills, social skills, and many other. But I like the idea of this transversal skills and competencies, because they are not content specific or subject specific. They are general, and it is required for every individual to possess those skills and competencies in order to effectively play their role in the society. So, when we have actually realized the importance of the schooling, we must actually work in that area to strengthen our schooling system. Now, while we are strengthening our schooling system, how school can actually contribute for the cognitive development of the children. Let us try to know what is this cognitive development we are talking of, how exactly this cognitive development takes place, and what will be the role of the parents. Now, as you all know, this word cognition or cognitive actually is the contribution of Piaget. Piaget has extensively worked in this area, and to our knowledge, it is Piaget who actually is the pioneer. Now, cognition is a Latin word that is cognoscere, Cognoscere, which means to know or to recognize or to conceptualize. So, what is cognition then? It is a mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through experience and through the senses. So, empirically experiencing something, you actually generate knowledge. So, the moment this ability starts growing in the individual is in a position to reason out, think about a particular problem, to find solution about the problem, and this actually way of thinking and solving problem, it actually grows as the child actually grows in terms of the physical growth. So the cognitive growth also actually accompanies this. So the more a child involved in the process of this thinking and solving problem, this actually grows in a multiple way. Now, how exactly this takes place? Now, you need to actually remember three terms are associated with it. Number one is schema, establishment of a new schema, then assimilation and accommodation, and finally equilibrium. Now, what is a schema? It is an internal representation of the world. It helps the individual to understand the world they inhabit. They are they are cognitive structures that represent a certain aspect of the world and can be seen as categories which have certain preconceived ideas in them. Let me take a very mundane example and explain this. See, as a child, the moment we are in the month of end of June or July, around that time, this Rath Yatra takes place, car festival. Now, as a child, when we are exposed to this, it means a lot of entertainment in terms of that parents will buy things that we like. Some relatives may come and give some gifts. We go out and we actually enjoy. So the moment any festival that we experience, there are a lot of things associated with it, and we develop a schema, some knowledge about it. If I take myself as an example, I would always expect, yes, the moment a festival comes, I am going to get a lot of gifts. So accordingly, the schema is developed in the mind. Now, the way that individuals have experienced, accordingly that schema will be developed in them. Then comes your assimilation. If you have experienced, let us say, car festival, and you are going to witness another festival, let us say Dasera, you tend to think in the same manner that you had experienced during car festival. And as far as the celebration of both these Dasera and car festival Rath Yatra is concerned, they are done in two different ways. And therefore, the original idea remains that it is an entertainment, getting gift, and so on. So, with some minor variation, you 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 come out with a modified schema. Remember, in assimilation, the original schema is not changed, it is only modified. Now comes accommodation. Now, this happens when the existing schema does not work and needs to be changed to deal with new object or situation. So, the expectations or the experiences that you had in Rath Yatra, if you don't get those experiences and you don't have those expectations, you you try to modify it and develop a new idea. Remember, this idea will be different than the original idea. Now, many a times people or students, they come across a very conflicting situation. If they don't come across a conflicting situation, then they reach a stage called equilibrium. Now, in that equilibrium state, a child actually develops knowledge, generates knowledge. Now, here for a moment, let me just briefly talk about constructivism. In fact, Piaget is the original individual, the first individual who actually has given this idea, which we call cognitive constructivism. And he is talking about cognitive constructivism because all these things are taking place in the cognition. So, when you are confronted or you are in a situation of dilemma, you tend to think differently and come out with a state or come out with knowledge that is or that will be referred to the state of equilibrium. And so you actually generate knowledge. If as a teacher, by then, we impose on them or we tell them this is this and this is not that, the child tend to actually accept your statement. And this does not actually help the child to find out why this has been the case and why this has not been the case. A very simple example I'll let me give you to explain why we should not give the final word and why we should allow the children to come to terms, overcome the conflicted situation, overcome the dilemma, and construct knowledge. See, as an individual child or as a child in the school, we are taught that cruelty to animal is an undesirable behavior. Now, when the child comes to home and observes the father depriving the calf, milks the cow. Now, the moment the child confronts this with the father says that this milk is not conducive for this calf, and if this calf drinks all the milk, then it can lead to some problem. Now, this is rather, a very complicated answer by the father to accept. How can a calf will develop problem when it drinks the milk of the mother? And at this point, the child brings into the experience and even seeing it other about human beings. Now, for a moment, the child thinks probably what father is saying is correct and therefore accepts. Now, whether this particular response of the father is the right response or proper response. Now, but the student accepts it or the child accepts because it is father saying. And therefore, the inquisitiveness is comes to a full stop because the final knowledge has already been gained. But whether that is the final knowledge or not is again a debatable point. So actually constructivist approach which says that you allow the children to confront such dilemma and let them come to terms. Let them realize in course of time. Instead, as a teacher or as a father or as parents, if we give the final word, then the curiosity or the inquisitiveness of the child is blocked. I give you another example, a very simple example. This actually I had experienced. Long back, as a school child in a village, one Sunday afternoon, class, not actually Sunday afternoon, a class where science was to be taught. So, I'm sorry to say Sunday, it's a summer afternoon. So, the teacher took the students under a tree within the school compound. And as soon as he started the class, the very first question that the teacher raised or asked, how many of you have seen air? Now, students giggled, they saw each other, and by then there was a student who very reluctantly raised the hand. And the teacher got perplexed. He once again asked, are you sure you have seen air? And the child says, yes, I have seen air. The teacher still gets a rude voice, asks, tell me, how does it look like then? And the teacher, a student says, it looks green. The teacher scolds him and says, you fool, air cannot be seen. Now, this word, air cannot be seen, is a fine word. It's a final knowledge. The child will science or is interested in knowing, then understand how and why sorry, there was some disturbance. How and why air cannot be seen. So, in the childhood, the child has experienced whenever it's a village tribe, wherever he sees it's green. And the moment the child has experienced air, felt air, has observed branches and leaves of the trees, they are flying. And accordingly forms that is schema, that air looks green. But do that as a teacher or as parent. If you say this is this is not that, then the enthusiasm and the curiosity of the child comes to a grinding halt. So, realizing the importance of allowing children to reach to a state of equilibrium will help the individual to construct knowledge. That knowledge may be right, wrong, or whatever the case may be. And as the child grows, particular thing will be actually modified. That schema again will be modified, further thesis and synthesis. The synthesis acts as the thesis for the subsequent generation of knowledge. So, although it appears that the synthesis that has been arrived, which acts as thesis for another situation, appears like the previous thesis, is not the correct interpretation. It is the new situation. So when the child, through this assimilation and accommodation, reaches to the constructed, and as the child grows, that knowledge further actually grows, gets modified. Now, in this whole process, therefore, what is the role of parents? This is the last part of my talk. See, there are four types of parenting style. One, authoritarian parenting. It is where parents raise their children by establishing very strict rules question. Two, authoritative parenting. It is where parents establish strict rules in the household but allow open discussion with their children. Three, permissible parenting. Parents have appropriate. So, depending upon the age group of the individuals, the disciplinarian rules that have been formulated or framed may not be compatible, and therefore there will be a conflict. Parents may not be able to establish every household rules which can be enforced, and consequently children can be stubborn. Now, this is actually a study by Campen and Russell, Cultural Differences in Parenting Practices. In 2010, this was conducted. The third parenting is, that is permissible. Now, here, as I told, that parents have minimal discipline for their children and have high responsiveness for them. So children tend to be delighted to get lots of love. Parents tend to treat their children as their friends. Parents please their children with a variety of gifts. Negative impact. It has more. Children may be spoiled, getting a lot of bribery from their parents. ये कर लो तो ये मिल जाएगा, वो कर लो तो वो मिल जाएगा. Those kinds of things. Children may lack self-discipline. They may develop poor social skills. They tend to be aggressive or exhibit aggressive social behavior, may not have high academic achievement, may not develop mature behavior when they grow as an adult. Now, a research conducted by Brown SL in 2010, racial ethnic variation in parenting styles, the experience of multicultural adolescents, and another study by Huskins DH 2014, consequences of parenting in adolescent outcomes. And the final, uninvolved parents. Now, this is a situation wherein children can have opportunity to develop on their own, can overcome situations taking help from others, can mature very fast, can develop sense of responsibility very early, can become very adjusting. The negative impact can be socially isolated, can become delinquent, can lack self-esteem, unable to control aggressive behavior, can be prone to socially undesirable behavior. Now, these are the 4 different parenting style that I presented before you with empirical evidence. Now, it is in parenting or any one parenting style. With this, I stop here and over to the organizer for if there is any query or any questions or any observations or comments. Over to the organizer, please.
Thank you very much, sir, for elaborating on the variables in the topic of our seminar, supported by numerous empirical evidences. Priyaranjan, is there any questions coming up, or should we continue?
Continue.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you, sir, for this. Next, I would like to request Dr. Jamaluddin, HOD of Department of Education, Alia University, West Bengal, for his concluding remarks and vote of thanks. Please, sir.
Voice is not coming.
Is it audible?
No, not audible properly.
Hello.
Yes. Audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are very much
Yeah,
audible.
First of all, I must express my deep sense of gratitude and appreciation to Professor Yuvendra sir for his nice speech. Sir has enlightened his speech on cognitive consequences of schooling and literacy. He focused on various points, namely human development theory, plays significant role in the development of child. Schooling provides cognitive changes. Linguistic competence brings symbolic functions. Language is a major parameter for school children. School children are very much familiar with the task. Application of information processing models, presentation of learning materials by teachers are very important. Significant age effect on cognitive development by giving example of conservation of mass and conservation of length.
नंदा
We
जी
train
नमस्कार.
नमस्कार भाई.
enlighten on
Very well.
simultaneous rule and successive processing rules, structural features of memory, that is functional recall. No auto-regulation of experience happens during schooling via rote memory. So understanding and reflective thinking are very important for children, school-going children. Evidence-based knowledge are to be given to the school children to ensure quality learning. So really, we are very much enlightened from your speech, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable speech, sir. Further, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to Professor S.C. Panigrahi, sir, for giving an excellent coverage in his speech. He covered all the three important parameters: parenting, schooling, and cognition beautifully. He emphasized on brain development as well as cognitive development of children. During the first year, 50% brain develops. During the third year of 70%, and during the fifth year 90% brain develops, depending upon heredity and interaction with the environment. He also laid emphasis on various important points. More the experience the school children will acquire, better the development of the brain will take in place within them. Every young children has power to grow in different areas. Effect of whole environment plays significant role on the cognitive development of the child. Two important things he enlightened. Number one, quality of experience provided to the children, and second, quantity helps in the cognitive development of a child. Parenting, related to parenting, much of the children, depending upon their parenting style, socialization taking place in the family, not happening properly, particularly in the urban in case of single parent. So school have now greater responsibilities in developing social experiences as well as in making cognitive development of the children. Transversal and competence skills are very important nowadays and are acquired in specific places. These skills are not acquired through the content or subject specific. It may be called 21st century skill or life skill, and transversal competence skills are very important for every individual of the society. He also explained important terms beautifully, namely schema, assimilation, accommodation, equilibrium, and finally he emphasized on role of parents, where he beautifully highlighted four parenting styles. So really we are very much benefited from your nice delivery, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable speech. Finally, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all for active participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Okay, next we have our planner lecture, and for that I would like to request a very vibrant lady, Principal of Government ETI Bhubaneswar, Mrs. Lipika Sahu Madam, to carry on with the program. And I thank everybody for the nice experience I had moderating till now. Thank you. Please, Madam, you carry on.
Thank you, Monalisa Madam. Namaskar and good afternoon to all. A hearty welcome to you all for the plenary session of the national webinar on parenting, schooling and cognition. As you know, a parent is their first child's first teacher and should remain their best teacher throughout their life. So this theme is very pertinent in all times to come. I feel extremely privileged to welcome three most well-known educationists of the country, Professor G.C. Nanda and Professor Arvind K. Jha and Professor Ramakant Malik. Let me first, it's a great pleasure and happiness for me to introduce Professor G.C. Nanda. He is currently Professor of Department of Teacher Education, Uttara University and Senior Fellow ICSSR, former Professor of Education, Ravenshaw University, renowned educational thinker of Odisha. In a nutshell, I can say about Sir that he is a very student-friendly, student-lovely teacher. That is, he loves his students as his own daughters and sons. That is the greatest identification of Sir as a human being. So, may I request Professor G.C. Nanda Sir to speak about parenting, schooling, and cognition. Sir, please. सर टिके ऑडियोटा ऑन करके म्यूट प्लीज अनम्यूट करो
Is it okay?
Yes sir, yes, it's fine.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. And I must congratulate the organizers, the four institutions who have planned, organized, and executed this webinar through online mode. Kudos to them, all of them. And particularly thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, this pleasure, this privilege of listening to Professor UN Das, who has been a seasoned campaigner at the national level, at the state level, to lead different educational programs. And my learned friend, Dr. Sudarshan Chakra Panigrahi. And I must express my gratitude to Dr. Sudarshan Santrai and Dr. Priyaranjan Sahu, who have been very generous to think me a person eligible to be a part of this platform. Thank you so much again. So I also thank the audience attending this program for having spent almost 2 hours continuously. Very difficult, in fact, to concentrate on two scholarly lectures beautifully delivered by Professor Das and Professor Panigrahi. In fact, whatever I have been told to discuss with you, like assessment and evaluation of learning achievement, my role is now clear. Now I can be focused. Now I can be focused. And as you know, there is a change in the pedagogical paradigm. And the change is because of the advent of constructivist perspective as discussed by Professor Das and Professor Panigrahi. Let me take you back to National Curriculum Framework 2005, where it has been clearly envisaged that every child is capable of learning. Every child is born to be successful. But unfortunately, we sometimes brand him as a failure. And therefore, when pedagogical changes are happening place, the concept of pedagogy has been burdened. Therefore, we have to think of assessment and evaluation with a fresh perspective. If every child is capable of learning, then every child is also capable of showing learning achievement. But there is a gap between the learning achievement and the process of schooling. So what matters is the quality of schooling, the quality of instruction. So that is something which has been the cause and concern of policymakers, parents, and all the stakeholders of education. Therefore, the reform proposal started with the 86 policy. It was reiterated in National Curriculum Framework 2005 when they say that board exam is something which is really inappropriate for 21st century knowledge society, which is a hobby horse of our Prime Minister as envisaged in the National Education Policy 2020. You see, now the focus is more on 21st century knowledge society, skill development, life skill education, problem solving behavior, things like that already elaborated. And nowadays people are conscious. The literacy rate has increased. People are conscious. Now people have started demanding quality education. And one of the indicators of quality education is learning achievement or learning performance. But it must be remembered that always learning cannot be reflected in the performance of the students. Maybe sometimes when I say that everybody is capable of learning, I mean that everybody develops the potentiality of learning, the potentiality of behavioral change in course of schooling or in course of instruction. Sometimes we fail to measure it, assess it, test it. So there is a major concern sometimes. We only depend on this paper pencil written test. And another important thing is we have been conducting National Achievement Survey, NASH, over the last so many years. You will see that on the quality front, we have been trailing behind. And you will find that there is a social category gap between general students and the students belonging to ST category. Although the gap between boys and girls have been minimized, the gap between rural and urban students have been minimized, but this gap continues, as a result of which it doesn't guarantee social justice. Still, there are disadvantaged learners because of many reasons. Therefore, we have to reform the process of education. You see, the way we conduct examination, that is also very defective in the sense that the question paper we set, that is based on memory. Already it has been told by Professor Das that memory doesn't help in cognition. He has quoted adequate research evidence to say this, that memory doesn't develop the cognitive potential cognitive capacity.
Pardon me, sir.
Pardon?
Sir, your face is not visible. Probably the camera is not positioned in the proper manner, so your face is not visible, sir.
Is it okay now?
Now you have disappeared, like you have disabled the video.
Please give me some time.
Okay, sir.
Is it okay now?
Sir, you just position the camera little up. Yes, yes, yes. Now
Yes,
it's
sir.
better.
ହଁ ସାର୍ ମୁହଁଟା ଦେଖାଯାଉନଥିଲା ସାର୍
Okay.
ଏବେ ସାର୍
Acha,
Now it's okay. Now it's okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sorry for my technical limitations. Anyway, so whatever questions we have been setting, that is very poor. It only seeks to test the memory of students, right? So the quality has to be improved if you want to promote cognitive understanding, and if you want to promote all these higher level cognitive thinking, we have to increase the quality of the questions. And you see, the examination, the evaluation has been a rock which has not been able to remove the problems. It has been so inflexible. So the exam we conduct is one size fits for all. That is the problem. In pedagogy, we say that there should be differential approach, taking into consideration the individual difference. Similarly, there should be varieties of questions within the same framework. So that is something which has not been possible, and that is because of some systemic constraints also. I will give you an example. Today, you must be knowing that B.Ed exam of Utkal University is going on. And in the process of making it flexible, students on account of COVID-19 situation demanded that there should be online examination. Because the status of training institutions in Odisha state is such that we could not give them enough academic support, as a result of which they wanted online examination. And there was also pressure from above, conduct it online if students want it. But there are certain procedures, rules, statutory rules. And government instruction was to go for offline exam. And students wanted this. So the controller of examination was in dilemma. He was in tension. It was published in media also. Media people, they supported the cause of the students as usual. And when the controller shared his problem with me, I told him that let us do it online, no problem. But you just change the question pattern so that students cannot copy it from the textbook directly. So the program is going on with change the question papers. And the problem next is evaluation. And the way I suggest him to conduct the evaluation, he didn't subscribe to my idea because of systemic constraints. Therefore, we have not been able to set this rock in the evaluation process. And there are coincidence of exam-induced suicide, anxiety among students, nervous breakdown, so on and so. That is also a problem. And another problem is there is lack of transparency also. And people are yet to understand the value of transparency in examination. Once in Ravansa, I was doing some evaluation, that is internal evaluation. I shared the answer scripts with my students. And the information reached the office of the principal. The professor in charge asked me, how could you show the answer sheet to the students? The problem occurred because the particular answer sheet of a particular student was missing. He was shown absent, and when he demanded to see that, how could I be shown absent when I appeared at the examination and I know my mark? Now, how could you know your mark? The sir said, this was considered something like a blunder. You see, that is our attitude even at the tertiary level. So this is how examination change is required. And for that, system has to be ready, teachers have to be ready, which we'll discuss. And whatever we are doing in the name of examination, it is really, really horrible. People who deserve to get better grades, they do not. And people who do not get, because we don't go through the answer scripts line by line, sentence by sentence, things like that. Very casual in our approach, never professional. So that means error. Error component is there. And that is also people like Professor Das will admit. Whenever there is an attempt for quantification, there will be error. Okay? And so, the question is how to minimize that error. And then the question of assessment came. Let us do something evidence-based, something holistic, something that will help us in decision making. And on the basis of that, we will do sort of evaluation. By the way, my topic is assessment and evaluation of learning achievement. So in order to assess, we have to collect data from various sources. And for collecting data from various sources, we have to use various tools and techniques. It's not the written test only. We say that we have been implementing continuous and comprehensive evaluation. And one of the PhD thesis submitted under me says that it is not yet institutionalized in the entire state. Although teachers report that we have been doing everything. But it didn't happen. We say that there will be this unit test to facilitate formative assessment, there should be follow-up action, things like that. And there should be different tools, different techniques, but it's not happening. So therefore, we have to do assessment, which will be a feedback from the students to us, as instructors, as teachers. And evaluation will be a feedback from the instructor to the students about his or learning performance. Where he is failing, why he is failing, how will he do better, all these things we will never share with our students. So that is the problem. So in evaluation, some sort of judgment is there, and which is to be based on the assessment. Assessment means providing feedback, that is on knowledge, maybe on skill, maybe on attitude, maybe on work products, whatever he produces, all these things. And why should we provide all these things? Because our purpose, main purpose would be to elevate the level of performance, to increase the level of learning performance, and to improve learning outcomes. Nowadays, in this policy 2020, much focus is given, much attention is given on learning outcomes. Now people have started saying outcome-based budget, outcome-based curriculum, textbook, exam, things like that. Okay? So whatever it is, whether it is assessment or whether it is evaluation, you have to some criteria for that, comparing, contrasting, some norm. Previously we were saying norm reference test, then we switched over to criterion reference test, then we are now saying that there should be self-reference test. Criterion self-referenced uh, testing is now in vogue. So that is something which we should understand. So both require certain criteria and both are evidence driven. Right? Evidence on the basis of something, I would say that Lipika Madam deserves to be the best educated across the country. She must have shown, she must have produced some indicators, some reference points, some evidences that I have done this project, that project, this, that. Otherwise, you cannot say that she is the teacher educator of the country, best teacher educator of the country. How can we say that? Similarly, to brand somebody as the best, and we cannot brand somebody as such as the poor learner, failing learner, learner who deserves remedial treatment. Learner is not a patient, and even not a doctor. So people have started thinking remediation, remediation. Now Odisha government is doing remediation. Type of remedial measures? Hey, are you going to apply some therapy? Is your child a patient? Some corrective measures, maybe perhaps the right coinage of the words. So anyway, assessment is something which is ongoing, goes on. It's a process oriented. And this is closure oriented, provides closure. And this is something individualized assessment. And this is something which is applied against some standards. That's use inappropriate tools, right? That is the problem in assessment and evaluation. Something like that only written test. And recently they have started doing this oral test on regular basis to promote communication skill, which of course is a 21st century learning skill. There is a need for doing group discussion, things like that. And we can maintain a portfolio evaluation, collection of students' significant work over a period of time. That is something, and we can give assignment to our students, home task, team-based task. It can be structured, it can be open-ended, right? So we can give them also project. Now they say that project should be introduced from the upper primary stage. And in a project, basically, it is different from assignment in the sense that there is collection of data, analysis of data, things like that, and observation, particularly for these personal social qualities, measurement of all those things, assessment of all those things. You cannot go for written test, but unfortunately, I observe that teachers are still conducting tests, giving questions to assess personal social qualities. This is happening. You can make a simple checklist, or to make it better, you can use rating scales to know, to assess the degree of equality, whether it is present or not. And you can maintain also an anecdotal record for students. This is observational narrative records of significant incidents that happens in school during his schooling process. You can take photographs and show it to the child. This was how you were writing, and this is how you are writing now. This is how you can even use audiovisual recording. So my point here is, if you want to make assessment as a reliable and valid tool, you can use ICT. That is a better way of making it reliable, making it valid, so that you can take decisions, you can improve upon the teaching learning process, and you can also side by side improve the learning achievement of the students. But we should not brand the student on the basis of the test we have been doing. People have started rejecting all those marks you have been giving. Its credibility has been questioned. Therefore, time has come to make assessment holistic, realistic, reliable, and varied, and to use it. And one thing very important I found that once we do assessment, we must know how to use the evaluation data, assessment data. So much of data. Unless teachers are tired, some teachers, sincere teachers, they use different tools, they collect data, but they don't know how to analyze that. And on the basis of data generated, captured, they don't know uh, how to adopt strategies to improve upon the learning performance of the students. This is some and substance of my discussion because I have been allotted a slot of 30 minutes only. I think I took 30 to 35 minutes. And Lipika Madam, the anchor of the day, I must thank you because you have still condensed my duration of the lecture. And thank you audience and Arvind जी को मेरा नमस्कार है मैंने देखा नहीं था वो आ गए हैं next resource person. It is lunch time. And thank you, Priyaranjan. Thank you, Sudarshan ji, for having.
Thank you, sir.
This is all from my side. Thank you. Namaskar. Bye.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nanda, sir. That has really strengthened our idea on how to make assessment a holistic, realistic one. And he started from talking about National Curriculum Framework 2005 to NEP 2020. Really, sir, every child is capable of learning and born to be successful. But we have to do assessment in that way. The children must feel that, feel the taste of the success. So assessment should give the children, make the children joyful and taste this success. So we are grateful to you, sir, for coming and joining this national webinar and talked about the differentiate between assessment, evaluation, and three types of assessment: assessment of learning, for learning, and as learning. So also about non-traditional tools and techniques. So we are really grateful to you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your nice deliberation. Next, we will switch over to Professor Arvind K.J. Madha, sir. He is the Dean Professor, Dean School of Education and Head of the Department of Education, B.B. Ambedkar University, Lucknow. He started his professional journey as lecturer in Education, Department of Education, University of Delhi in 1996. His area of interest and research is epistemology and constructive pedagogy, philosophy of mathematics, science and research, teacher education. So he has a number of, he has guided a number of students for their PhD course, supervised many of the MPhil dissertations, published many books, and also participated in numerous international and national seminars. We are so fortunate to have you, sir, in today's webinar on parenting, schooling, and cognition. Sir, may I request you speak a few words to our viewers, both in the YouTube as well as in the Google Meet. Please,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Sau. At the outset, before I start speaking, friends, I must thank Dr. Priyaranjan Das, and I would like to thank all the organizers who are associated with this program. So without wasting time, what I want to do directly, I would like to go with my presentation, and hope you will be able to see my presentation. Even if the presentation is not visible to you, no problem. I can directly go for that. So this is my slides. Hope you are able to see my slides.
Yes, sir.
And I was asked to talk something on knowledge construction and constructivist epistemology, friends. And those who will be interested to have collaboration related to this topic, for them, I'm sharing my email also. Friends, whatever today I'm going to say in coming 15 minutes only, because from 2 o'clock I have another engagement that I want to, I had already committed, right? And there are 2, 3 my university commitments into 3 committees I have to participate. So I'll keep it very, very short. This I have already, written in my book, which was published in the year 2009, almost 12 years ago, Constructivist Epistemology and Pedagogy, Insight into Teaching, Learning, and Knowing Friends. So let me start with this understanding that people understand what knowledge is all about and how knowledge is different from the Bloomian concept of educational taxonomy, and also how it is different from information friends. It is said that by reflecting on our experiences, we construct our own understanding of the world we live in. And best example regarding this I would like to give you when Pythagoras, reflected his understanding on the basis of his experiences of right angle triangle. He came out with a marvelous construction of knowledge that we today discuss, and we expect that all students, either in 5th or 6th or 7th class, should understand that in a given right angle triangle is perpendicular square plus base square will always be equal to hypotenuse square. And this is what knowledge construction is. Similarly, on the basis of the reflection on Archimedes' personal experiences, he came out with his construction of knowledge, why certain articles don't float in water and why certain articles keep on floating into the waters. In short, each of us generates our own rules and mental models, which we use to make sense of our experiences. So the challenge is now how the learner constructs knowledge from experience, which is unique to each individual. So 2 things. The first challenge is to understand how the learner, once the learner has got the chance to cognize a particular phenomena or to cognize a particular concept or to cognize any internal experiences, he or she constructs knowledge from the experiences, number 1. And number 2, we should not forget that every construction of knowledge on the basis of the individual experience is unique to each individual. The best example, the way Pythagoras, the Pythagoras experience regarding right angle triangle, and even Euclid, who is considered the father of geometry, his experience with the right angle triangle were completely different. And that's why, what could be seen by Euclid and what could be seen by Pythagoras, there were the 2 different connotations of the right angle triangle. And that the beauty of the right angle triangle, and that experience, on the basis of that experience, Pythagoras came out a particular mathematical equations. Okay, so knowledge construction, time and again I have pointed it out, and I think we should be very particular about using particular terminologies in the field of education. First, we should get rid of the mindset of the training, okay? And we need to understand and differentiate between training and education. This is what. Similarly, what is the role of the teacher? Okay, whether the role of the teacher is to give the knowledge or to help the child to construct the knowledge, you should be very particular about this. I believe, like many other constructivist thinkers, that knowledge can neither be given nor it can be taken. It can only be constructed. Okay, why I'm saying so? Because as people experience something new, they internalize it through past experiences or knowledge constructs that have been previously established. And more importantly, I would like to quote here a great thinker, Biko, and some people call him Biko. Biko says, "Verum ipsum factum." It means a man can only know what he or she constructs himself. If it has not been constructed by himself or herself, no individual can understand in totality. And the best example is the field of mathematics itself, where everyday people learn mathematical phenomena. Everyday teacher teaches mathematical phenomena. But see, the mathematical understanding is not as much as it is desired. And that's why perhaps the progress of mathematical knowledge, or in the field of mathematics education, is the slowest in the world. Despite the fact mathematics comes in the epistemic hierarchy at second position. It occupies second most important hierarchical positions. So for mankind, the only things that truly exist are those which mankind itself has constructed through perception and conceptual work. And that's why I'm very happy that you people are discussing on perception and on cognition. So many thinkers have said us that the only things that truly exist are those which mankind itself has constructed. It means the teacher's job is to facilitate the students so that students can understand and can construct his or her own kind of knowledge. People say that how is it possible in mathematics and science? That is not possible. I am saying in every field it is possible. And that's why every mathematician, every thinker, every scientist, every economist, every linguist is coming out with his or her own understanding. I would like to quote here Chomsky, who says, though we all learn the same universal grammatical structure, but we should not forget that we all develop our own grammatical structure as far as expression is concerned or the writing is concerned. Right, friends? So, knowledge, the first major understanding is this: knowledge can never be given, nor it can only be constructed. So, knowledge construction and reality, what is the relation? Now, the question is, why it is important in the part of the teachers to understand knowledge construction? Because if you believe that there is something which is real in this world and that you want to understand, so what is the correlation between the two? Like, I have always maintained the line that no reality in this world or in other world is ultimate reality. Every reality is a mental construction and contingent upon human mind. And that's why I won't mind to say, it will be wrong to call that the God has given, whichever God you believe in whichever religion you belong to, has given birth to us. Right? Rather, humankind, human mind has given the birth to the concept of the God. And that's why, now some people may contest my statement, but frankly speaking, the best example to this statement is, if that's not true, why we have the multiple concept of the God? Why Christianity has a concept of the God? Why Islam has a different concept of God? Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma has a different concept of the God. Even Sikhism has a different, Buddhism has a different, and Jainism has a different. Every religious people have come out with his or her understanding of the concept of the God. Similarly, friends, now what is its implication in teacher's life? The epistemic and pedagogical reality are also not the ultimate reality, right? Epistemic and pedagogical reality are also a constructed reality. You construct, and that's why I say, as Professor Naik was talking about, that the assessment is different from evaluation, or examination and test is different from that. But see, now the discourse is completely changed. In the light of NCF 2005, it has been argued that instead of testing, examination and evaluation, we should focus more and more on assessment. And what is the logic behind this? If you go into the deep, you will come to know that why it is important in today's world. We talk about that. In short, reality is constructed on the basis of socio-cultural backgrounds. As is your society, so will be your reality. As your society, so will be your knowledge and understanding of the reality, etc., etc. So we cannot negate the importance of your socio-cultural background, because on the basis of socio-cultural background only you construct the reality. Reality of mathematics as a phenomena of knowledge, physical science or chemical science or biological science as a phenomena of scientific knowledge, or the economics as a phenomena of economic knowledge, or as a phenomena of social happenings, social knowledge or sociology of knowledge, etc., etc. It has different assumptions of knowledge construction, which I would like to skip, frankly, because as I said, 2 o'clock I have already another one. So learning for knowledge construction, all learning, all cognition should be only for knowledge construction. Then what are the assumptions? The first assumption is that the learners who are involved in active learning physically construct knowledge. So, when people advocate the classroom should be the activity based or only, active learning should take place, it means those persons are talking in terms of physical construction of knowledge. But physical construction of knowledge is not all about knowledge construction, friends. So learners who are making their own representations of action symbolically construct knowledge, because the symbolic construction of knowledge is the second very important point of things. Third, learners who convey their meanings to others socially construct knowledge. So social construction of knowledge and its implication is that now I'm in a position to convey my knowledge to it. I would like to quote here one of the greatest political thinker in India, Rajni Kothari, who has talked about the I knowledge versus we knowledge under the headings of the politics of knowledge. Last but not the least, learners who negotiate with others, only then knowledge construction will take place. Anyway, cutting it short, I would like directly what is the notion of the teacher construction and how take place, or what is the notion of this. I'm coming directly to the second aspects, and that was nothing but the constructivist epistemology. Try to understand, friends. If you read NCF 2005 document again, why NCRT people love to call it is a paradigm shift in teaching, learning, and assessment. There is a reason behind it, because there is a difference in epistemological orientation. And in my book, the first book in my life, Natural Philosophy, Epistemology, and Education, I have very clearly written, it is the epistemology that provides guided lives to pedagogy. And that's why you should be very sound in your discipline regarding its epistemological basis. If you don't have clear-cut understanding of what knowledge is all about, for example, if I'm a mathematics teacher and if I don't understand and appreciate what is it that makes mathematical knowledge as a mathematical knowledge, and how it is different from all sorts of knowledge in the field of or in the world of knowledge, right? So there is a shift. The first shift, as I said, behaviorism believes that knowledge can be given or taken. But on the contrary, constructivism says knowledge can neither be given nor it can be taken. It can only be constructed. Why and how? I'll take just 1 minute and I'll show you. See, behaviorist epistemology says that the knowledge is what? Knowledge as being awareness of objects. Do you think that only being aware of something you are knowledgeable? For example, if somebody asks me what is a set, and I explain set is a collection of well-defined objects, do you think I'm knowledgeable about set? I don't think so. Second one, objects have intrinsic meaning. I don't think that any object has got its intrinsic meaning, right? No, it's not true. Every meaning is constructed by individual mind. But the third point that it says is that knowledge should represent a real world. And when you combine all the three, what happens, friends? Knowledge should be considered true. And they believe in true knowledge, true only if it correctly reflects that independent world. Which independent world? For example, till today, we haven't seen the heaven. Nobody has seen the heaven, despite the fact all religious gurus, all religions, time and again, say that you do the good karma and you will go to the heaven. Where is the heaven? Right? But anyway, it always believes in an independent world, and knowledge is that correctly reflects that independent world. On the contrary, friends, if you come to the constructivist epistemology, you will find that knowledge and reality do not have an objective value. No, it doesn't have an objective value. And that's why this thinking doesn't believe in objective reality. Every reality is a subjective reality. Why? Every reality is a constructed reality. And that's why the reality of the physical phenomena, as it was perceived by Newton, is completely different from the reality of the physical phenomena as Einstein and now perceived it, and now the quantum mechanics is trying to perceive it. Second, which is very important, only subjective reality exists, and that's why I'm very happy when Sunaik was talking about that why there is a need to have the differential strategies regarding teaching, learning, and assessment. Okay. The third thing is we have no way of knowing this reality, right? If you combine all the three, right, then only knower interprets. Just be there. Rahul, I'm joining. Just give me 1 minute. I'm joining. So the knower interprets and constructs reality based on experiences and interactions with the environment. So knower, to construct knowledge or to understand a phenomena called something knowledge, it lies on the interpretations of the knower. So knower interprets and constructs reality based on what? Based on experiences and interactions with the environment, right? And that's why environment is the key factor. See, the way we people speak in English language or communicate with each other, and the way English people speak, or the Britishers speak, Americans speak, or even Australians speak, why there are differences? Because of the environment. Similarly, in the construction of knowledge, your interactions and environment play a key role. In short, this is what I wanted to share with you, friends. I'm very sorry, extremely sorry. I haven't done justice due to paucity of time. Thanks to all. It's over to the organizer.
Letting us your knowledge, instruction, and this episode. You truly, sir, can be constructed. And you have given so much of examples from the Archimedes principle, Pythagoras theorem, to so many mathematics and science examples, which are related to our school education and to our learning process. Really, sir, we're so grateful that you have also highlighted about teachers' job as a facilitator. And teachers have to create a situation where the children have got the opportunity to construct a knowledge. The role of the teacher in the school is very, very important if you want to shift from the behavioristic approach to the constructivist approach, where every learning environment can be created in the school. Thank you so much. We're truly grateful to you. We know it is in a very short span of time you have experienced nicely. Really, it impressed us so greatly. We humble gratitude to you, sir, from the organizing team. Thank you so much, sir. Now
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Arun, sir. Thank you.
And now the third part of this session is led by Professor Ramakant Mahalik, sir. Professor Ramakant Mahalik started his career as lecturer in education in 2004 at RI Mysore. Now he is working as the associate professor in RI Bhubaneswar. He has attended many international and national seminars on different perspectives of education, and also published 60 research publications in very renowned journals across the country, also in the international forum. He has attended many workshops, conducted short-term courses, training program, organized many training programs for the in-service teachers and across the country, and focused mainly on eastern region of the country. So he has also conducted 6 major research projects. We are fortunate enough to have Professor Ramakant Mahalik, sir, on this second day of the National Webinar on Parenting, Schooling and Cognition. On behalf of the organizing team, on behalf of the 4 institutions, I welcome you, sir, to this webinar. May I request you, sir, please speak a few words to our viewers, both in the YouTube as well as in the Gmeet. Sir, please.
Sir, namaste, madam. At the outset, I express my sincere gratitude to the organizer for giving opportunity to speak in the national webinar. I was listening to Professor Jha So he has given a very thought-provoking talk on instructivism. And I think this is the last part of the webinar as I believe. And as for the discussion with the organizer, I will be speaking on one of the very, very important trends in world education. That is, where everybody is concerned, everybody is bothering. What will be the kind of school education and teacher education and also higher education during and after the COVID-19. So I have given a series of lectures on this, the kind of education during COVID. I think this is something bothering to everybody. The kind of learning loss the students, the teachers, the educational institution has received due to the pandemic, due to the lockdown. So I will be presenting very briefly, I will finish it in time. Three important issues I will be talking. The kind of education during the COVID is not over. And the second point I will discuss, what kind of education we are just thinking, we are just imagining after the COVID. And my last part of presentation will be, what are the different kind of issues that may arise or that is arising now also in school education and higher education. So let me talk about the kind of education that we are following now and which is very familiar to all of you, those who are listening. Because when the March schools, college, university closed, so everybody shut down, everybody locked in their home. So it was a time of uncertainty. It was a time which nobody want to again imagine or think of. But anyhow, credit goes to all the teachers, educationists, educators, administrators, those who are working in the field of education. Within a week time or so, again we started continuing our education, we are continuing our learning. Maybe we started with a Zoom app. Everywhere we started taking online classes. Even I used to tell you, the teacher who never worked with a computer or a laptop, they started taking Zoom classes by using their mobile. And therefore, recently I was reading a document prepared by the UNESCO, the futures of education. The document title is Futures of Education, Learning to Become. The UNESCO has said, they have given a lot of credit, they have appreciated our teachers, our teacher educators, our teaching professionals. Because in a very short time, we have captured, we have acquired a new skill, how to start our online classes. Not only online classes, online examination started, online admission test happened, online viva voce happened. So maybe within a month, so our education system again, came to a stage where we felt that we can continue education, we can continue to teach and assess. I think this credit because of, this could we do because of the or the ICT because of the online platforms. So this is good. But of course, we try to provide the facilities, the learning facility, the teaching facilities through online platforms. But there are learning gaps. India is a country where our 40% people they stay in rural area, tribal area, inaccessible area, where this ICT facilities was not good, even is not good. So it created a social divide. The people say this is a digital divide. I think this had a great impact on education of especially the socially disadvantaged group. So this is one of the problem that education in maybe school and college it faced during the COVID time. Even if I speak my personal experience, even from students of Regional Institute of Education Bhubaneswar, they could not join all the classes. What to talk about a colleges that is located in some rural area of Mayurbhanj or Jharsuguda. So this was a condition, or this is a condition that we cannot completely avoid. But only one point what we have done it. Even the government has taken many other initiatives, like education started through television. There are many television channels are open. For your information, the government of India, MHID, they have created one TV channel for one class. That means total 12 TV channels are created. The main function was to telecast the subject teaching. So within a very short period of time, it was done. Not only the government of India, MHID, different state governments. I know the government of Odisha, the government of West Bengal, and all the governments. They have also created educational films, educational online classes, video content, we say e-content or video content, it was created and it was telecasted. So that means when the Zoom application or the internet facility was not available or is not available, students can learn through television, because television is something which is more accessible even in a rural area and remote places. So education could continue to some extent. Not only that, many educational radio programs, community radio we say, the community radio program are launched only to facilitate learning. But now this is something happened maybe till September or October, but gradually the government started relaxing the COVID norms because the situation has improved in India. So now maybe from December onwards, so gradually or in a phased manner, schools, college are gradually started opening. But one thing I want to tell you, we cannot expect the same kind of world where we were living before March. We cannot expect the same kind of world now, even after 6 months. So we cannot think of the same kind of education, same kind of educational activity, same kind of examination that what we have done in the year 2019, in the year 2018. Because of the impact of COVID, because of the bad effect of COVID, COVID has impacted all these sectors of society. I think education is very, very badly affected. Once again, I'm repeating, the learning loss, it is brought to around 105 billion students of the world. It increased the dropouts, failures, and the lack of minimum learning competency of the students. Many students now they cannot start their education. Imagine the class 1 students, those who just taken admission in the month of February, never gone to the school. So we cannot think of the same kind of education in the post-COVID even now also. So then what kind of education we are imagining as an educationist, as a scholar of education? So we imagine, this is something imagine. We just try to think on the government policy, the international bodies like UNESCO policy, the guidelines of the WHO, so what kind of education we can have at present and in the future to come. So now our educational institutions should be reorganized, the restructure. Educational institution must be reorganized and restructured. The main principle is social distancing. So now what happened earlier? We are sending our child to the school because we want our child should be social. Now we as a parent, we as a teacher, we are telling our students, you should be asocial. So our education institution should create a social kind of environment in the school. There should not be a group work or a big celebration in the school in future. So many of these schools or educational institutions will run in shifts. Now the shift school concept will come in after COVID. I don't know when the COVID will end, or it may not end also, the experts are telling. It will continue like some other disease. So therefore, to tackle the situation, we have to organize our classes in shifts. The school can have a 2 shift, 3 shift depending upon the number of the students. Now the prescription is you cannot have more than 20 to 25 students in class. So how can you accommodate so large number of students? So therefore, in a post-COVID situation, the educational institutions will be restructured, keeping in mind the number of the students, keeping in mind the social distancing, keeping in mind the guidelines of the WHO and the local governments. This is one. The physical structure needs to be changed. We may need more number of classrooms. We may need more number of teachers. This is a something very futuristic concept. We need more number of classrooms. We need more number of teachers. When you want to, run your school in a shift or college in a shift, you need more number of teachers. And most important things that this COVID or education in the COVID is changing the teaching strategy. We are all familiar with the traditional teaching strategy, the face-to-face. But now and after COVID or in future, online mode of teaching, blended learning approach, remote learning will be emphasized. I want to tell you one thing I want to emphasize. COVID may go, but this online teaching, blended learning, remote learning will continue to be present in our education system. It may be a school education, it may be teacher education, it may be in higher education. So it will continue. And therefore, all our teachers, our educators must be oriented, must be acquainted with online strategy, the blended learning, like students can come to the class for some time, for 2 days, 4 days students will be in the home. This is something we say blended learning. So the post-COVID or the future education in the world will be online oriented, blended learning. So here the government need to spend lot of budgets for developing digital infrastructure in the school, in the community. Because otherwise this online learning, blended learning, remote learning is not possible. I think the government of India in different states, they have started. One of the something I just thinking on the point, whether the existing curriculum or the syllabus is fit to the online teaching, blended teaching. What I want, our existing syllabus and curriculum need to be redesigned, because my opinion is the existing syllabus and textbooks are not fit for this modern teaching like online blended teaching. So therefore we have to change it, redesign. As educators we have to work on it, how to reframe, how to redesign, reorganize our syllabus. As you know that during even now the CBSE has reduced the syllabus for examination purpose. All the state government, they have reduced the syllabus for the examination purpose. So therefore we have to redesign our syllabus. Even reducing syllabus is only one way, but in future we have to completely redesign our syllabus. We have to see if the entire syllabus for the 1 year, this portion to be taught in a blended mode or in a home, this to be taught in the school, this should be taught from online classes or from some video lessons. So that to be done now. One of the things, we are giving very, very important to attendance. In 2019, before that, attendance of the teacher and students are compulsory. But maybe the future education, the attendance or compulsory attendance may go. Because now today also government is encouraging, if students are interested, they will join the school, college, university. If they are not interested, they want to continue education online, they can continue learning online. So in future education, this attendance system will go, or the compulsory attendance system will go for both teachers and the students. Teacher may opt to teach. For your information, the government of India, that's a personal and training department, ministry is there, training department is there, they are working on a policy working from home. Very soon it will be approved in the cabinet, it will be circulated to different states. The teacher may opt for some time to teach online from home. Some days he or she may come to the school. One of the very brilliant idea that emerged during the COVID and it will continue in the future is home school culture. Home school culture. So usually what happens? We send our children to the school and they learn from the school. We have very less involvement in the education of the child in the home. But during the COVID and future to come, the parents will be compulsorily equal partner in educating their children. This is something home. Now, as a parent, I have to teach my child. This has been started in foreign countries, even in Bangalore like a Karnataka. This system has there. I have to educate my own child. The future education will be homeschooling, will be encouraged. And the kind of pedagogy that when we are thinking of a kind of pedagogy in the future, like we want to use a multi-put pedagogy. The future education will use a multi-put pedagogy. Our pedagogy will not be based on only constructivism. As a teacher, I have to master a multiple pedagogy, a different kinds of pedagogy. It may be one pedagogy, maybe constructive pedagogy, ICT mediated pedagogy, individualist based pedagogy. So a variety of teaching strategy will be developed and will be oriented or will be used in the classroom situation.
Pardon me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Due to time constraint, may I
Yes, I am concluding, madam. I remember your time. 2 minutes. And
thank you so much.
so now the situation, like the home school will be encouraged. On the last point that I want to talk you, that is use of Internet of Things. So use of augmented reality, use of virtual reality. So these are the new concepts that has been used in business, in other aspects. So that will come to now in our education system. So in education system, we'll use it. So our, as I said, our curriculum, our syllabus will be redesigned. Our curriculum will build inbuilt where or how the virtual reality can be utilized as a teaching strategy. So it requires a teamwork. All the stakeholders, like teachers, like other professors, administrators, they'll sit together. Then we have to redesign our entire education system for future. COVID is only one example. I think even our grandparents, they have never seen such kind of incident, and we don't know when some other kind of pandemic may come to the world. So therefore, we should get ready for this. And the last point I want to suggest here is the future education will be kind of online, and the distance education will be promoted. Even the distance education will not be inferior to the face-to-face education. It's a very general tendency of the people. You have done course in distance means you are less knowledgeable than the person who has done a regular course. This mentality will go in future education to come. So therefore, all these stakeholders, we should put together and we should try to think of a different kinds of education in future, so that we can able to face the kind of COVID or in future any pandemic. So thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you very much for presence hearing. Of course, there is a time constraint, I understand. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malik sir. Thank you, Malik sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, it's a very important thing, that is because COVID-19 is not in our hand. Another virus can come at any point of time also. But you have really raised the concern of the learning loss of the children. That is true, absolutely true, sir. And the shifting of our attitude as well as our professional, that is journey, to shifting that from this purely face-to-face mode learning to shifted to online or blended learning and different kind of this the major advantage of this COVID-19 is that we are all techno-friendly these days. This is the mandatory, this is a compulsory thing. We have to empower ourselves, also acquainted with different ICT schools, ICT tools. Had it not been COVID-19, we would have been in one place and collaborations and all these webinar, because we are acquainted with the word national seminar, but webinar is a new. So many new words, new terminology we heard in the pandemic period. yes, social distancing and school is a social setting, but we are doing it as SOP at the social distancing. So with this pass on time, we have to adapt ourselves, adapt our mind, and also thinking, and also develop different strategies how the students can be benefited, even if yes, sir. Truly, we thought that is distance learning is inferior than the face-to-face learning. We have to change our mindset also. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us and discuss about the pros and cons of this online learning and all these things. So now let me conclude this session with this remark that we have discussed in this session three different areas: assessment and evaluation of our learning achievement, how to construct the knowledge, as well as during this pandemic period, how we have to shift the learning process from the offline mode to online mode or blended learning. The viewers of both in YouTube as well as GMeet, we have learned a lot. So on behalf of the organizing team, I thank and thank is a very small word. I must extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor G.C. Nanda sir and Professor Arvind K. Jha sir and Professor Ramakant Malik sir for joining this webinar, and it's a four institutions collaboratively organized this webinar. So we are grateful to you, sir. And last but not the least, I must extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizing team for giving me the opportunity to be associated with this webinar, though I'm not the part of these four institutions, but technically I'm not the part of the four institutions, but in my mind and heart, I'm with these institutions, and I'm grateful that to the organizing team for giving me this opportunity, for coordinating this session. It's over to the organizing team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lipi madam. Informally, you are part to the program. So thank you very much. You are always with us. Thank you.
Now it is handed over to Mona Lisa madam for any important announcement for the coming sessions.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we are done with the planner session. Next, we'll depart now and we'll meet at 2. We'll meet at 4:30 for the valedictory session. So till then, have a nice day and bye all of you.